Thank you very much. You may be seated. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our first session for our 2013 Kingdom Training Seminar. Now, you will note that this seminar is called the Kingdom Leadership Training Seminar here in the Bahamas. And the focus of this seminar over the last 3 years has been training you on how to teach it. Recently, since we have been privy to so many people being exposed to the kingdom message, that creates some very dangerous problems, because some people believe that if they heard it, they know it. And this is very dangerous. I have had the horrific experience listening to people who claim to be teaching the kingdom, and they were destroying it because they didn't understand it and they tried to teach it. You cannot teach what you don't understand. And what may seem simple when someone like me speak about this subject is not simple, because I've been engaging this information for over 40 years. So it seemed very easy for me. Some of you are just being exposed to this in the last 40 months. Compare 40 months to 40 years. There's a big difference. So the reason why this seminar was created is so that we can protect you from confusing people, creating error, misguiding people into things that you don't understand, and also destroying the very purpose of Jesus, which is to communicate the most important message on earth, and that is the kingdom message. So this is to, in a way, attempt to correct history, and in some cases, to complete your education. There are people in this room and maybe online who have had formal Bible training in a school somewhere. Maybe you went to a seminary like I did, graduated from university like I did in theological studies, and you still don't have the grasp of the kingdom. This seminar was created to assist you in getting the completion of your education. I have not found any leader in the church or any so-called Bible teacher, I've not found any yet who had formal training in kingdom studies. I've met people with PhDs in theology, PhDs in the Old Testament studies, people with all kinds of degrees in the sociology of the Bible and all kind of deep stuff. But I haven't met anyone that had formal training in a school on the kingdom, which is very sad, because this is the ultimate message and also the only message that Jesus preached, which was the kingdom. So it's very important for us to pause and go back, if I can use that term, and reconnect to the most important message that was ever preached and taught on earth, and that is the kingdom message. Now, why do we begin with the concept of ideology? Why do we begin with this foundational thought? I thought about this very, very long. Ideology is more important than theology. Ideology is more important than philosophy. I went to university like some of you in this room, and I graduated. I went to some very interesting classes in the university and followed their curriculum course of studies and graduated. I went to more than one university. And I can't remember a course on ideology in any of those universities. There was a course on philosophy. There was a course on theology, but not ideology. And some of you are not even acquainted with the word too well. Ideology. So this first session is the most important because it is foundational, but it's also the most important component when you talk about learning and teaching and educating, and that is ideology. The objectives of this session are up on the screen, and you will note we talk about what you will learn in this process. The first one is our attempt is to rediscover the principle and the power of ideas and ideology. That is crucial. We're also going to take a look at the ideas in Scripture. What are the priority ideas in Scripture? We don't approach the Bible this way too often. We normally go to the Bible to get devotional concepts or to get some scriptural reference or something, but we don't necessarily approach the Bible as an ideological document or a document that has ideology in it. But that's the most important part of our research. We also want to define the impact of ideas, why they're important, explain the priority of the kingdom as an idea. It's an idea that Jesus communicated. We also want to take a look at the difference between ideology and modern church ideas and Jesus Christ himself. Hopefully in this short opening we're going to talk about how to apply the kingdom ideology as the prophetical fulfillment of Jesus throughout the scriptures. The Bible is really the manifestation of God's ideas. I want you to think that way so that you can approach the Bible from that perspective. We also want to evaluate the ideology of the 20th century and the contrast with the ideas of Jesus. Because what's going on right now is really a clash between the ideas of Jesus and the modern ideas of our contemporary culture. That includes the church. And then finally, we want to talk about, hopefully help you demonstrate the practical application of the kingdom ideology to your studies. Always remember that whenever you pick up a piece of material to read or study, that material is in danger because you bring to that material your preconceived ideas. And the temptation is to impose your ideas on the material. And you end up with your ideas coming from the material that may not be speaking your ideas. You actually make it say what you want it to say, because we all bring to life our own ideas and we impose them. And this is very dangerous, and it's probably the curse of most of our modern day theology. The key concepts in this series, which you will find as you download this information, is the ideas of God through the Old Testament, the ideas of Jesus in the New Testament, the ideas of what it means when we talk about the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom ideology is the foundation of theological perspective of Jesus and, of course, the Bible. And we're going to talk about the fact that the primary content of the four Gospels is the ideology of the kingdom. It really is. And it is the principle and the primary context for understanding or interpreting the message that Jesus preached. I want you to think for a minute. You interpret through your ideas. You also impose them on what you are engaging. That is a formula for error. I also have to be very careful battling this fight. The fight of making sure that my ideas are not being imposed on God's word. The results are disastrous, and I think history has shown that. For example, you remember the Inquisition, when the church instigated the killing of hundreds of thousands of people in Europe because of the wrong idea. You remember the Crusades, when the church, dressed in a red cross representing the blood of Jesus, cut people's heads off with knives and killed hundreds of thousands of people in the name of Jesus because of a misconceived idea about what they thought the scriptures said. It is therefore vital that we deal with the power of ideas. Ideas are the source of all the destruction that has taken place in the world. The murder of 6 million Jews was the result of an idea that Adolf Hitler had. That's how powerful an idea is. It can kill 6 million people and literally justify the killing. When I was in college, I was asked as a part of a course to read the writings of Hitler, his what they call Mein Kampf. And when I read it, I was shocked that he really began it with God. He said that God raised him up to correct some problems and also to restore the Roman Empire. And he said that the problem that he saw that prevented that from happening was that this group of people, the Jews, were the problem. And so God had raised him up to correct that. And so his idea was that he was raised up by God. Well, bin Laden said that he was defending the honor of his God. So the idea can actually destroy the world. So let's talk a little bit about the power of ideas. You want to write this down. The world is ruled by dead men. What do I mean by that? Every form of government that is ruling countries was an idea that someone conceived. And all of those who invented those ideas are dead. So basically, the world is still being ruled by dead men because ideas outlive men. Ideas are stronger than death. So don't you ever consider this session and this discussion as not being the ultimate discussion, the discussion of ideas. Ideas are so powerful that death cannot kill them. That also leads to my next point. Ideas outlive men, and therefore ideas can never be destroyed. If you kill a man, you cannot kill his ideas. As a matter of fact, history has proven that if you kill a man with an idea, the idea multiplies. They call it martyrdom. You know, it's a very dangerous thing to try and stop a man with an idea by physical termination, because you give honor to the idea. And this is why, for example, terrorism has grown since bin Laden was terminated. It gave validity to the idea. So ideas can never be destroyed. That means ideas can only be exchanged. Write that down, that's important. If you meet a person with a different idea, don't try to destroy their idea. Try to get them to exchange it for yours. If you meet a Buddhist, or a Hindu, or a Muslim, or an atheist, they are what they are because of the ideas they believe. If you want to reach those people, you don't curse their ideas. What you must do is present your idea as being a better alternative, so they can exchange theirs for yours. It's called conversion. The word convert, I'm sure you've used it a few times in your life. If you have a certain type of currency and you go into an environment where the currency is not valid, then they ask you to do what? Convert the money. The question is, do you lose your money? No. You maintain the value, but you exchange it. And sometimes when you exchange your money, you get a better value. That's called conversion. So when you tell someone, I was converted, what you're telling them is, I exchanged my old ideas for some new ones. Do you understand? It's the power of an idea. That leads to my next point. Ideas produce everything. Everything in life was once an idea. The shoe on your feet began as an idea in someone's mind. The chair that you sit on was first an idea in a designer's mind. The clothing on your back was first an idea. The building that we are in was first an architectural idea. Everything begins as an idea. That's how powerful an idea is. An idea begins everything, including the creation of the world and the universe, began with an idea in someone's mind. That someone, of course, we refer to as God, which means self-existing one. So ideas produce everything. And the only way to defeat a bad idea is with a better idea. Because you can't kill an idea. When we talk about being effective in the world, having influence in your generation, how to deal with all the contesting ideas in your environment, one of the worst things you can do is to tell a man that his idea is no good. Because everyone has a reason for the belief in their idea. And if you try to disregard my idea or discard my idea or devalue my idea, you lose me. Can I give you a simple, wise statement? Life is simply about an exchange of ideas. So if you want to reach someone with a different idea, first, tell them to explain theirs. Give them the privilege of trying to convince you that their idea is better than yours. That is how you gain respect with people. When someone says to you, I respect you, what they're saying is, I put value on your ideas. And the most important statement about ideas is this right here. Ideas produce philosophy, which will be another session we do tonight, so don't miss tonight. Philosophy is the product of ideas. Philosophy, which we will learn a little later today, is actually the word love. Philo means to love. Osophy means to think. So philosophy means to be in love with your own thoughts. That's basically what it means. So when you say, I have a communist philosophy, what you're telling me is you are madly in love with the ideas of communism. That's your philosophy. Your thoughts are your driving love. And according to the Bible, as a man thinketh in his heart, this is the man's life. So your philosophy is your lifestyle. It becomes what you live out of. All of you sitting in this auditorium and the thousands who are privy to this information online, I promise you that you are simply living your philosophy right now. That's all you're doing. You are living what you believe to be true or truth. And it might be wrong. But because you believe it's truth, it becomes your life. That's called philosophy. And therefore, it begins with what? Idea. So here's my point. If your idea is wrong, your life is wrong. Think about it for a second. If your ideas are wrong, your life is wrong. Your philosophy is wrong. Your lifestyle is wrong. And you can live an entire life in error. Most of us basically got a soup we call truth. We got stuff mixed up in it. You know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And some of it is bone. Some is meat, and some is poison. And we got this thing we call my belief. And this is why you must keep pursuing truth. And that's why we come to a seminar like this. Because we need to remember the power of our ideas. All right, let me take you to a little thought about ideas again. You cannot fight against an idea. This is very important. Because you cannot physically destroy it. Can you shoot an idea with a bullet? Absolutely not. They thought that when they killed bin Laden, they destroyed terrorism. They thought that when Lenin died and Karl Marx died, that communism died. Communism is still in Cuba, which is 20 minutes from where you're sitting. And they've been dead for 75 years. Humanism is as old as Pharaoh, 4,000 years old. And they are teaching it in your university, in your city today. The Egyptians invented humanism, the worship of man. So ideas cannot be destroyed, and that's important. Ideas may have a shelf life, but they are never extinct. Ideas go into hiding for a generation, and then they show up again in the next one. You remember bell bottoms? Yes. It was an idea, and then you thought it went away. So these are important questions. What do you do with an idea? Write this down. Ideas can be generationally traded. This is frightening. What do I mean by generational trade? That means generations take their ideas and package it and sell it to the next generation. It is called traditions. A tradition is simply an idea that was passed on to succeeding generations, and the generations that embraced them did not question them. Didn't check to see if those ideas were in line with what we call truth. I want you to think for a minute. This is a a training seminar on the kingdom. Most of you in this room never heard the concept until perhaps you heard read one of my books, or heard a tape or something. And so the question is, what were you believing before that? And where did you get it from? You inherited it from somewhere. Some generation in the past gave you something, and you were using it without question, until someone introduced a fresh idea into your environment. You call it revelation. By the way, the word revelation is an interesting word. I was speaking in Puerto Rico a few weeks ago, and I was talking about this. And I gave them a demonstration. I'll give it to you. Okay, I hold in my hand a bottle. Everybody see this? A bottle of water. You can see that, right? Everybody see that? Now, I'm going to cover it up. My question is, does it still exist? Yes, but can you see it? No. Okay. Revelation is never anything new. The word reveal means to unveil. That's all it means. Revelation is never new. Revelation is simply the re-exposure of something that was covered up for a long time. So when someone comes and they remove the veil, we call it unveiling or revealing, revelation. So revelation is simply the rediscovery of old truth. I would prefer to call it the original truth. So my question is, the ideas that you believe, are they original? Or did some generation pass that on based on what they got from their previous generation, and no one questioned whether the information or the ideas were truth? That leads to my next point. Ideas outlive men, and therefore ideas multiply under pressure. If you want to expand an idea, have someone die for it. It expands. Jesus Christ laid his life down for the sake not only of your salvation, but for the idea of it. His idea about saving humanity was an idea. And he was willing, he said, no man takes my life. I'm going to lay it down for this idea. That's why we can't get rid of it. His idea multiplied from one man to almost 2 billion people today. And it is still multiplying. Because under pressure, ideas multiply. That leads to my next point. God is the source of divine ideas. And that is why we have to go to God. Because God is the original source of true ideas. There's an abstract word that we use that many times we don't understand the word. It's the word truth. Truth. People ask me sometime, what is truth? And the famous question that Pilate asked Jesus Christ, what is truth? This is a very important question. And keep in mind that Pilate was a governor trained by the Roman Empire, produced by the Italian exquisite classical educated class. He was ruling the whole area of Asia Minor, in charge of Palestine. This guy was powerful and still didn't know truth. He was still confused. I too was confused, and people use strange answers when you ask them what is truth, especially religious people. They answer this way: Jesus is truth. That makes no sense to me. And it doesn't make any sense to you either. You cannot apply that answer to nothing. A person is not truth. Let me explain what I mean by that. Truth, let me define it for you, write it down, is original information. That's the practical definition of truth. Original information. What do I mean by that? That computer that you're sitting in front of right now came from a manufacturer. The manufacturer that made that product placed in the box on top of it a book. We call the book the manual. The word manual means to make. Manual is referring to the maker's mind. So the manual is put in the box because the manufacturer don't trust you. He doesn't trust your ideas about his product. So he puts his mind in the box and ships his mind to you. And then he says, before you touch my product, read my mind completely. Why? Because I know the truth about this product. I made this. I know stuff you can't even see that's in it. I have the original information about this product. This is why God is the source of divine ideas. God created everything. So if you want to know the truth about everything, which is what? Original information, you got to go to the manufacturer. This is why we need God. Now, the Bible says in the book of John, chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word, okay? And the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and he was with God where? In the beginning. When God began the beginning, the Word was in it. He was active. And then it says in verse 12, and the Word became flesh. So when Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, you probably should read it this way. I am the way to the truth that gives you life because I am the manufacturer. Amazing. I know the truth about everything because I made it. So when you listen to the message of Jesus, you're not listening to the Apostle Paul, who to me is a commentary. You're not listening to Peter and James, who are commentaries. You're listening to the manufacturer. This is why I want to warn you. Do not get your gospel from the epistles. Get it from what they call the four gospels. That's why they call them that. Get it from the source. Get it from the manufacturer. Otherwise, you can make the commentators more important than the manufacturer. You studied the four Gospels, you won't find grace too much. Because grace was not the gospel that Jesus preached. He preached the kingdom. That grace is important, but if you study those other books, you'll get other themes because they were dealing with issues. But Jesus dealt with something completely different. He dealt with the original information, the kingdom of God. So when you come to this kind of event, this seminar, we are trying to get back, even behind the commentators, to go back to the original source so we can get his ideas. Because that idea produces our life. Are you with me? Yeah. So ideology is really the foundation of this whole thing. Let's talk about the power of ideas real quick. Again, the most powerful force on earth is an idea because everything on earth is a product of an idea. Everything began as an idea. And ideas produce everything. Ideas are more powerful than death, and death can never kill an idea, and ideas can never be destroyed. Now, this is the reason why I talk about ideas so much, because ideas, sometimes they submerge in one generation, and then they emerge in the next one. By the way, that's what makes me very wise, because I am convinced that there's nothing new under the sun. Solomon taught me that. Solomon says, whatever you say, here's something new. He said, that was here already. There's no such thing as a new idea on earth. It's just a new generation bringing it back. Comprende? Sí. Gloria a Dios. So, I want you to think then about the process of ideas. Now, this is important here. Ideas begin with a thought that we call a precept. A precept. If your precept is wrong, everything will be wrong. Everything. So it's more important for you to find out what is the precept about everything. Look at the word precept. Pre means before. Sept means thought. It's a word. Pre is a prefix. Sept is the word. We don't use the word too much. I could ask you, what is your sept? And what I'm really asking is, what is your thought? Pre means before. So if I say, what is your precept? I'm asking you, what is your thought before you thought about the thought? What is your original idea that produced the thought? That's called a precept. Once you conceive a precept, it is called a concept. A concept, therefore, is not stage 1. It is stage 2. Your concept will be wrong if your precept is wrong. So if you don't understand the precept, you cannot have the concept. That's why you begin with the idea first. I believe that every course that you take in any school should begin at the level of ideology. This is probably why many of our social systems are falling apart. Many of our cultures are decaying because no one is questioning the precepts. We talk about, for example, redefining marriage. Has anyone ever sat down and thought, what is the precept of marriage? And I actually been thinking about it. I'm going to write something on it soon. The precept of marriage is not love. The precept of marriage is the continuation of the human species in the context of preservation. Buy the CD just for that statement. See, I just went over your head just now. That's how deep you got to think when you are arguing these ideas. Because the people who are selling the ideas don't even understand the precept. It's not about love. God never told Adam and Eve to love one another. He simply said multiply. Now, why is that important? Because the precept that they are using to justify, for example, the idea of same-sex marriage is that if people love each other. See, it's too deep. Well, love is not this. Marriage is not about love. It's about procreation. So if two men cannot procreate, we cannot call that marriage. Call it something else, but you can't call it marriage because the idea is wrong. There you go. I can see your face. What are you talking about? Okay, I'll just leave that alone. So the conception of a precept produces a concept. That leads to stage number 4. Then once you accept the concept, it becomes what we call a conviction. Once you have a conviction, it leads to the 5th stage. When you accept a conviction, it becomes a belief. When something becomes a belief, then it becomes your ideology. That means your system of ideas that you believe to be truth. Once it becomes your ideology, then it moves to this very dangerous stage of becoming your philosophy. We use the term Christianity. Where did we get that concept from? What does it mean? Where is the original idea that gave birth to it? And does it genuinely describe the intent of the original idea of God? We just accept things, never ask. Once it becomes your philosophy, the result is your lifestyle. And there's your problem. So if you want to know what life is, you take this list and you work backward. You start from the bottom. What kind of life am I having? It's because of my philosophy. What is my philosophy coming from? From my ideology. Where did my ideology come from? It comes from my belief system. Where did I get my belief from? It came from a conviction I had somewhere. Where did my conviction come from? It came from a concept that someone taught me. Where did the concept come from? It came from a precept, an idea. So you can see that if your idea is wrong, then it runs all the way through, your life is wrong. Now, if your idea, your precept is wrong, watch this, then you become a prisoner of your misconception. Am I right? So you can actually live in a lie. Am I right? Look at that process. Am I right? Okay. So if you are living in the prison of a lie all your life because your precept, your idea, thought was wrong, then how do I set you free from that prison? I will answer it this way. Jesus comes along and says, you shall know the truth. He says, I'm not going to set you free. He didn't say that. He said, you shall know something. You shall discover something. You shall discover what? Original idea. And when you discover it, he says, it will set you free. Free from what? An entire life that was wrong. We call it being saved.
Yes.
Saved from what? Right. The lie. Right. Do you know what the Bible calls the devil? Jesus actually gave him a name. And you know, we have all kinds of names for Satan. But it's important to read Jesus' title for him. He calls him the father of lies. A lie is simply an idea that is not truth. Father means what? Source. He is the source of ideas that are not truth. Because once he can plant the wrong idea, the precept in your mind, then he got your whole life. Satan walks up to Eve, if I can put it that way, and he did not attack Eve. He sowed an idea. He said, if you pick that fruit, you will not surely die. He was planting an idea. He said, as a matter of fact, if you eat it, you'll be just like God. It was an idea being planted. The rest is history. Why am I saying this? We are here to study the kingdom of God. And some of you just discovered the idea recently. Which means that you are so contaminated with so much stuff that you inherited for the last 30 years of your life that we got a lot of cleaning out to do. And it ain't going to happen in no 1 hour sermon from a pulpit. You are contaminated. I was too. Still getting cleaned up myself. Battling stuff. And some people are so in love with their old ideas, when you embrace new ones, they make you their enemy. They don't want you to change your ideas. So they can have conversation with you with your wrong ideas. It's called fellowship. Your ideas can destroy your friendships. Because you can't relate to people anymore if your ideas change your belief system. Which means your conversations change. Which means you can't converse with them anymore. And this is what Jesus meant when he says, I will cause there to be friction between you and your own family. You know, Dr. Horner used to be a Southern Baptist, right? When he was baptized in the Holy Spirit, they defellowshipped him. Now, what does that mean? His idea expanded, He couldn't fit in anymore. He became the enemy. The power of an idea. Coming to this seminar is very dangerous. Because you might go back home converted. Completely different currency. Which means you can't exchange with other people that you left home anymore. You can't exchange. No longer the same value of exchange. I know what I'm talking about, personally. All right. Let's deal with this real quick. Precept. Write this down. A precept is what? An idea. Write it down. A concept is a conceived idea, conceived thought. A concept, therefore, is a picture that shows up in your mind. For example, if I speak the idea of a dog. Everybody see the dog? Okay, how about a yellow dog? Do you see it? Yellow dog. With a purple ribbon around his neck. Do you see that yellow dog in your mind? Yeah, that's the power of an idea. It can actually create pictures. Now, everyone in this room have a different dog in their head, though. Some got a poodle, some got a, Great Dane, some got a Doberman Pinscher, some got a Greyhound. But we all got dogs. The picture is there. In other words, the idea becomes a picture, and we call it a concept. So if you have the wrong concept, then you have the wrong picture. So if your precept is wrong, your concept is wrong, your picture is wrong, then your conclusion is wrong. Yes. Your dog is not my dog. And you could swear that you have a dog. I could swear I got one too, but our dogs ain't the same dogs. Can I give you one of the most important things I ever learned in university? It was in a class called oral communication. I was sitting in this class, and they were reading a book by an author. They studied a book in that class called Hayakawa. I never forgot the guy. And the entire book was about meaning when you're communicating, communication. It's in communications class. And he made a statement in the book, I never forgot it. This is 1974. That's how far back I go with that. I still remember it as if it was yesterday. He said, meaning is not in words. Meaning is in people. Write that down. Meanings are not in words. They are where? In people. In other words, my dog is not your dog. So what a dog is the one you see. That's your dog. I can't tell you that my dog is the right dog. You see your own dog in your mind. So when both of us use the word dog, we're talking two different animals completely. Am I right? You say, I saw my dog. I say, I saw my dog too. But they ain't the same dogs. That's how powerful an idea is. Ideas are different in people's minds. Here's my point. The only way for you to know what dog I'm talking about is you got to get into my mind and take a picture of my dog. That's why the class is on communication. How do I describe my dog to you so I could replace the picture of your dog with mine? I use oral communication. So I use what? I take words and I try to get the words to create a picture of my dog in your mind. So my words are the vehicle to paint the same picture of my dog. It's too deep. So, when God saw the world in trouble with the wrong ideas, God says, I'm going to send my word. And then he says, listen to what he says. Not your bishop, not your pope, not your pastor or parents. Hear him, he says. He will describe what you're supposed to be seeing in your mind. And if you study what he said, you will come to the conclusion that the painting in his mind is not the painting in your local church. His picture is not the picture in your seminary. What you call theology is not the theology in the mind of Jesus. He's the Word of God. He's the vehicle that carries the right picture in the mind of God. He came to deliver the precept so you can walk away with the right concept, so you won't have the wrong conclusion. Why? Because if your conclusion is wrong, then you walk away with what we call a misconception. A misconception will always produce misunderstanding. And once a person misunderstands something, you can't help them. Misunderstanding is the source of most of the destruction on earth, including marriages. It destroys. Misunderstanding is so dangerous, it can kill 6 million Jews. It can send aircrafts into buildings and kill 3,000 people in 1 hour. Just a misconception. That's why I'm happy, deep down, quietly happy about you leaving your home and flying to this conference or walking across the street to this conference. And you come and put aside your regular life so that you can have an opportunity to question your regular life. Education is simply the distribution of ideas. Training is the disbursement of ideas, hoping that the person will capture those ideas and it will change their behavior, lifestyle. So misunderstanding is the greatest danger on earth. What is an idea? Real quick. An idea is a conceived thought. A conceived thought is a precept. A precept is the original idea, and the original idea is called truth. So truth is the source of understanding all things, because the most important possession in life is understanding. Notice now, write this down. This is a very important statement I'm making here. The most important thing in life is understanding. Not knowledge. You can have knowledge and still don't understand it. How many of you ever read a book and you had to read the sentences 10 times because you didn't understand what you were reading? I mean, you get the information, but you don't understand it. Understanding is more important than information. Let me quote the Bible. In all you're getting, it didn't say get wisdom, Wisdom is application of that thing. Understanding is the most important, because the most important is understanding, because understanding is when you get to the truth of the matter. I understand. You ever heard that? Oh, I understand. What they say? The light just came on. The Bible says God is light. That means God just came on in your mind. That means the manufacturer just entered your thought patterns. That means his idea just lodged in your brain. You call it revelation. He unveiled. You know what the Bible said about the Holy Spirit? It didn't say he can knock you on the floor and make you shout. It says he will guide you into all truth. Yes. That's his number one job. He will guide you into all truth. What is truth? Original idea. He's going to take you back to the original thought that God thought. Once you get that, you get what? Understanding. And once you get understanding, then you get truth. And truth does what? Set you free. Set you free. All right. So here's the way it works with theology. Ideas. Ideology. Ideology is the study of thought. Psychology is the influence of your mentality. Theory is the study of belief. Philosophy is the belief in your own thoughts. Theo means divine authority of thought. God himself. Theo. Theology means the study of God and his activity in history. So you see the connection here. A theory is the study of your beliefs about God, or truth, or some substance, or some experience. The theo has to be with the divine authority of that thought. So when someone says, I studied theology, what they're saying is, I studied God's thoughts about God, or what I believe about God's thoughts, or what I believe about God. That's theology. Your theology could be completely wrong. So I'm not impressed when you tell me you got a degree in theology. My question is, what theology you have about God? The Pharisees had a theology. The Sadducees had a theology. They had a belief about God. Hitler had a theology. Bin Laden had a theology. Everybody got a theo about their God. So I'm not impressed when you tell me you have a theological degree. What I want to know is not the theo, but the ology. Is the ology right?